This video is all about energy transfers, and it's for Key Stage 3 students. You can either watch the video, pause it when you need to do an activity, or watch it all the way through without pausing and then use the PDF or the PowerPoint that's attached with this lesson. You start your activity here on the left, some pictures, and if you can match them up with the correct energy store, which is what you were learning about in your previous lesson. So, for example, magnetic store here matches up to the magnet. So if you'd like to complete the rest of that. This shows you everything that you need to know. So you can use these keywords that are highlighted in bold for your vocab list. So we've got energy stores, transferred and dissipated, and we'll come back to the meaning of those words throughout the presentation. If you'd like to copy the heading into your books, the law of conservation of energy. So before we go any further and looking about how energy is transferred, really important law to understand that energy, you can't create or destroy it, it just changes in form. And there's some videos links here for you to watch. So if you can't create energy or destroy it, what else can happen to it? Energy can either be stored or transferred. So this slide here has got some more keywords that we'll discuss in more detail. If you'd like to put the heading into your book, that energy can only be stored or transferred. And a word that you'll see quite a lot in physics is system. And all it is, it's a word for an object or a group of objects that you are studying. So for example, a beaker of water, or water in a kettle, or two cars colliding. And when a system changes, energy is transferred. So if you like, energy goes from one pot to another. And energy can be transferred into or away from a system. It can be transferred between objects in the system or between different types of energy store. Let's have a look now in more detail about this law of conservation of energy and what exactly does it mean. So it basically means that energy doesn't disappear. It's got to go somewhere. And when you're studying a system, so heating up some water, the energy that is put into the system, the input energy, equals the energy that at the end, the output energy. So in most energy transfers, the energy is transferred to several different forms, and you might use that form or it might not be so useful. And often non-useful energy is transferred as heat or thermal energy. So for example, with your mobile phones, you want to be able to see the phone, you want to be able to hear, but they often do get a bit hot, so that would be your non-useful energy form. And what happens to this heat? It is usually dissipated to the surrounding air. And what's this word dissipated mean? Dissipated means it spreads out to the surrounding air. So let's have a look in more detail about the different ways that energy can be transferred. So one way here is mechanically. So when a force makes something move, so that's the key word there that goes with mechanically, it's something moving. So when an object is pushed or pulled or stretched, so this picture here is showing the elastic being stretched. And of course, what will happen when let go of the elastic and a catapult, the object will then move. Now for this slide and the ones that are following, if you want to copy the heading and the notes, and you can copy a little diagram as well, like this awesome diagram here. Another way energy can be transferred is electrically. So when an electric charge moves around the circuit due to a potential difference, so the push moving the electrons around the circuit. Another way energy can be transferred is by heating, and also heat is an energy store. So we always say when energy is transferred by heating, it is transferred from the hotter object to the colder object. So you never say, for example, close the door because all the cold air is coming in. The more scientifically correct way to say it is all the hot air is moving out of the room. The fourth and final way we say energy can be transferred is through light and sound. So the light and sound waves can carry energy from one place to another. And light and sound together is often referred to as transfer of energy by radiation. This table gives a summary. So on this side here we've got the 4 different ways energy is transferred, and a reminder here of the energy stores. Here's an example for you to try. So the first part is you have to pick the correct energy transfer. So how is energy being transferred to the kettle? How is it being transferred to the water? And also how is it being transferred to the air around the kettle? Second part is which energy store is the correct store to use for describing the energy stored in the hot water. You can pause the video now and have a go at this, and then the next slide I'm going to show you the answers. So energy is being transferred to the kettle electrically, to the water in the kettle by heating, and to the kettle and the surroundings by heating. Now you want that energy transfer. That is going to be useful because you want the water to get hot. This energy transfer is not so useful because you don't really want the kettle to get too hot, and definitely not the surrounding air. And also the energy that is stored in the hot water, it's stored as thermal energy. This next slide has another question on for you to try, and you can either pause the video now and have a go, or just read through it as I go through it with you, and we'll go on to the next slide with the answers on it. So what is the store of energy for an arrow in a bow when it's ready to fire? So you've got your bow and arrow ready to go, and the store of energy in the arrow as it flies through the air, and the store of energy when the arrow hits the target. So have a little think about that, and then we'll go on to the next slide. So here's the solution to the previous slide, and if you could copy this down into your notes, it's a good example of how to show energy transfers. So you've got your energy store here, and the main energy store is the elastic store in the bow, so it's been stretched back. Then let go and the arrow flies through the air, it's moving, so the energy is transferred to the kinetic energy store of the arrow. And you've got an arrow here showing you that is an energy transfer. The energy hits the arrow hits the target, and so the energy is transferred from its kinetic energy store to the thermal energy store of the target. Now, there's going to be more than one energy stores usually. For example, here, you know, the arrow is going to make a noise, isn't it? So you're going to get sound energy dissipated, and here as well you might get heat and sound as well. So if you could copy those notes into your books with the diagrams as well, and you can either watch this video again or just go through the PowerPoint that's attached with this lesson.